right. Test 1, 2. Hello there. Welcome to North Cascades Bluegrass Festival, streaming with the pros. The North Cascades Bluegrass Festival is held over every Labor Day weekend with camping from Tuesday before Labor Day to the Tuesday after. Today we are joined by Jason Hicks. Let's bring him on. Hello, Jason. Welcome to the North Cascades Bluegrass Festival, streaming with the pros.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Glad you could join us today. Let's get started and get right into it. How did you get into bluegrass?
I got into bluegrass indirectly through Bob Dylan and then the Grateful Dead, and that kind of started getting me into some more acoustic type things. And next thing I knew, I had rediscovered my mom's Will the Circle Be Unbroken album from the Dirt Band that she had loved. She actually went and special ordered it from the local music store because they didn't carry it on a CD, and so she got that, and then it was being played, and it was initially a little too country for me, and then I sat down with it one day, and I was like, you know what, I actually really like this, and that was so between Bob Dylan and the Dead, then Circle Be Unbroken and Old and in the Way, and boom, I was off.
Cool. You're one of two co-founders for the Blue Canyon Boys, is that correct?
Yeah, more or less, yes.
So who's your other co-founder?
So Gary Dark is a mandolin player. We've been playing together for close to 20 years now. We've had just a great time. He was in a different bluegrass band, and I was in a couple different bluegrass bands, and I was actually getting married. And before getting married, I basically quit all the bands that I was in because I was ready for a fresh start. And there was sort of this idea that I might join his band. And so I was kind of like, that would be fun. And then lo and behold, that didn't happen. And I get a call from Gary one day saying, hey, let's get together and play some songs. And so with a mutual friend of ours, a bass player who had played in a few bands with me. And so we started playing some songs, and he's like, I am committed to my other band, but during the winter I gig less, and it'd be fun to do some gigs this winter. So we started, and then and then I sort of was getting recruited by his other band to come and audition, but without him present. So there was some tension in that band, and I get a call to go to a practice session with his band, but he wasn't going to be there. And so that put me in a very awkward position. So yeah. I called our bass player and I explained to him what was going on. And I said, what do you think I should do? And he's like, I think you should call Gary. So I called Gary, and Gary's like, his comment was, that's interesting. We don't have band practice tonight. And I said, actually you do. And I was invited to it. And he's like, well, that goes against things that we've already discussed and going on. And so he's like, all right. He called me back in 15 minutes, and he's like, well, I'm good to go with this band. But let's get started. He quit right then and there.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So you, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, have released 7 full-length albums. Can we look forward to an 8th anytime soon?
Yes, we have 7 full-length albums. 6 of them are actually still available. The first one is out of print, and we have been working on a whole new batch of songs, a lot of new originals that we're working on, and those will be on the next one, number 8, whatever we decide to call it. And we haven't started like any of the recording process or anything like that, but we've been working on the songs, and so hopefully those will they're pretty much ready. So we're ready to start getting in there, and we probably got 6 or so songs that are ready to record. So hopefully This winter we'll get in the studio and get them done.
Good luck with that project. I'm anxious to hear it.
Yeah, it's fun. I really enjoy the recording process.
Jason, I've read that you had an interest in a couple of pioneering artists. One of them was Norman Blake. And Norman, if I'm not mistaken, toured many years, or at least 10 or something like that, or maybe 30 off and on, I'm not sure, with Johnny Cast, who most everyone knows as a pretty big country legend. In your opinion, was Norman more of a country player, a bluegrass player, or a mixture of all three?
I think at the time of when Norman was learning how to play because he plays everything. I think it was still considered mainly just country music. So I don't know if he really considered himself bluegrass or country or folk or whatever. Um, he kind of rides along that line of everything. I mean, the first time I saw him live. He was doing a solo show, and he just straight called himself a folk singer.
Ah,
And this was in the '90s, so he was by that point he was well respected in the bluegrass world for sure. So he kind of he was a session guy too in Nashville. So he did he was played with whoever. He was on the Circle Beyond Broken album. He played with Dylan, and he was on Johnny Cash on the Johnny Cash show. Played with Johnny Cash, and he was part of John Hartford's Steam Powered Aerial Plane album. So he did a lot, and he was what he does right now, what he's done over the past number of years is very very traditional. He loves finding old songs and bringing them back to life. But he's been a huge influence of me.
Well, another one of your influences was Don Reno. Tell us what interested you in this Hall of Fame inductee.
I don't really know what got it started. I think, and it was more of his banjo playing than his guitar playing, which is unique because I've never been. I mean, banjo has not been my favorite instrument. I don't dislike it. Obviously, I play bluegrass. I do love the banjo, but I loved his approach musically. I loved how he took chances. He played with a lot of fire and energy. He did some cool creative things that were not necessarily as banjoistic as so many other banjo players are. I guess somebody said that their complaint about Don Reno was that he played like a country guitarist, which is what I think I liked about him. Is like he played different. He played musically differently than what was what's become this, I guess, the standard of bluegrass banjo playing, and that was really attractive. And I mean, he's kind of sloppy sometimes, and I know some banjo players don't really like that or appreciate that, but that never bothered me. I like that he was always going for it, taking a chance, doing something new, and just a cool creative player.
Cool. So you grew up in a little town in Missouri, right? What was the name of that?
A little town called Labadie.
Labadie. Yeah. So during those formative years, what influenced you as a musician?
That's a good question. I've always been into music, and especially singing. I wanted to play guitar, but I had never. It was sort of like something that I wanted to do, but didn't really know how to start or where to start. I didn't have a guitar, and I just always liked that. I mean, I guess what happened with a lot of people and with me as well is like I remember singing in church. We every year or every Sunday we go to church and they would sing the hymns, and so there was a lot of them that I didn't like, but there were some that I remember singing and remember loving the feel and the groove and the melody of the songs, especially around Christmas time. And I loved that aspect of it. And then as I got into high school is when I really started, learning music more on my own and what I liked and didn't like. I guess my church, and then my first favorite band was the Beach Boys, which is all about vocals.
Yeah.
Before I had anything, my uncle gave me an old 8-track player, and I think he had 3 8-track tapes that he gave me, and one of them was the Beach Boys one. I have no idea what the other 2 were, but I listened to the Beach Boys one a ton. I just fell in love with them.
Yeah. So rumor has it that one of your childhood friends has moved from Missouri to Bellingham. And I'm curious, are you going to be able to see that person? And are you excited about it?
I am. I believe we're going to get to see each other. I haven't spoken with him. I don't know if he's on social media much. But he moved up. When we were kids, his family would take summer vacations to Washington every year. And I guess it became like almost like a little home away from home. But every year they do the big van trip across the country. And lo and behold, one by one, his whole family started moving out there. And I think he had 4 sisters. And I think most of them live in the Bellingham, Seattle area, Washington area. And his mom and dad also have moved out there in the past, 10 years or whatever it was. So I'm looking forward to seeing them. I think I'll get to see him and his mom and dad and maybe one of his sisters as well. So that'll be fun.
Awesome. Well, if he needs any information, you have my phone number. Have him call me and I'll fill him in where the festival is and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, and he lives I think 5 minutes away from the grounds where the festival is going to be.
Oh,
so So he had,
I'm like 9 minutes, so that's
oh,
cool.
so
Yeah.
yeah, and my sister-in-law, she lives out there, and her family, so my nephews and brother-in-law, so they live out there, and I definitely will get to see them and some other friends who have lived here in Lyons who have moved out to that area. So I could see a bunch of friends
Awesome.
that I don't see often. That'd be
That's
nice.
great. That'll be great. Is it true, Jason, when you were 16, you were given a truck for your birthday and you sold it for a guitar and an amp? Tell us about that.
That is a true story. Before I turned 16, my parents had said, we're going to give you our old pickup truck for your first vehicle, and it was a '78 kind of light limeish green Dodge pickup. At that point in time, it was definitely not a cool vehicle. and I didn't really care about getting my license yet. That wasn't a high priority of mine. But what I did care about was, I became determined to learn how to play guitar. And so before I turned 16, I said, would you guys mind? Can I sell the truck? Would you mind if I did that? And I want to buy a guitar and an amp. And they said yes. So I sold the truck and I bought a guitar and an amp, and I started, and I basically just jumped all over the guitar and fell in love with it. And I would go to school. I'd come home, I'd play guitar, I'd eat, do a little homework, and then I'd play guitar. And then about 10:30, mom and dad would say, okay, it's time to turn that off. And then I did it every night.
Wow.
And I'm very, very grateful to that, because a vehicle is a big gift. It wasn't worth a whole lot, but it was a big gift. And for them to say, yes, you can sell it and buy this, that was very meaningful to me.
Yeah, very supportive. I believe that's about as exemplary as it gets. If someone were to ask you, how passionate are you about playing guitar and writing songs? I mean, it doesn't get much better about describing your passion, right? So, Jason, do you have another job besides being a touring musician?
Actually, all of us in the Blue Canyon Boys, we all have day jobs. Mine is I do handyman and kind of light remodel type stuff. I built high-end furniture for about 20 years prior to that, and just I get up in the morning and I get dirty, and I try to avoid cutting pieces of my fingers off and try to keep sharp objects away from them. But the accident does happen. It's funny. I had a solo gig a few months back, and I was putting in some flooring, and you have these little contraptions where it locks a piece of hard rubber locks into the flooring, and you hit that piece of rubber with a mallet. And so I had my hand there and I went to hit it, and right before I hit it, the thing slipped, and I hit it with pretty good force, and it basically, the tips of my fingers got caught in there, and it was instantaneous blood blisters on my two main fretting fingers.
Oh, bummer.
That hurt for a good month. I had a gig like 4 hours later. I was like, I hope I can do this.
Yeah.
I was playing flat fingered for the whole night.
So I'm sure your audience and your fans are curious about what you do when you're not working, performing, or rehearsing. Can you take a moment to provide us some insight into your life outside of Jason Hicks, the performer or the worker?
Well, I have a family, and so I spend a lot of time, especially during the school year, trucking kids back and forth. And I am a huge baseball, a softball fan, and I play softball. My son plays baseball. My daughter plays softball. I play in a co-ed league here in Lyons, and so I spend as much time as I can doing that.
That's great.
We go to a bunch of baseball games, and my son, we get there early. My son always comes home with at least one or two balls and plenty of autographs. So
that's great.
We follow a lot of baseball stuff.
So we talked earlier about when you were younger and your desire to write songs. What do you feel is the best song that you've ever written, and why?
That's a tricky question. I have a few songs that I think are my favorites, and I don't necessarily know if they're my favorites because they're other people's favorites as well, or they've grown to develop more meaning as time has gone on. I have one song that was my mom's favorite song, and she just adored it. And it was Gary's mom's favorite song for a while too. And so like when somebody has a song that I've written and it becomes their favorite song, that really kind of skews like you. It makes a connection different. And then I also have a song. Actually, that song that was my mom's favorite song. Another person had taken some of the lyrics and put on her husband's grave. Her husband passed away.
Oh,
She said there was a line in that song that they loved, and it would work perfectly for where he was buried. And she asked, obviously, she asked, how do I get permission? I was like, you have permission. And so that song is called Just an Old Dirt Road, and it's one of my favorites. And then another one that I've written, Rocky Mountain Stars, is people seem to love that one a lot too. And that's a kind of that might be my favorite song now that I've written.
cool.
So those two.
So, if I'm not mistaken, in our lives we all have firsts, and I'm thinking you do too. I'm really curious about some life experiences centered around Costa Rica and Borneo. Enlighten our fans.
Oh yeah. So in 2010 or so, we played a festival in Malaysia, the Rainforest World Music Festival. It's this wonderful, phenomenal music festival in Borneo, in Malaysia, outside of Kuching, and it was that was our. It was funny. We got asked like, "Hey, do you guys want to play this festival in Borneo?" And we're like, "Yeah!" And then we were like, "Wait, where is Borneo?" And so we looked it up and we're like, "Yeah, we're going to play it. We can't wait." So we played the festival, and it had 22 bands from 21 countries, and every continent was represented except Antarctica, and the music was all basically folk type music from that was indigenous to wherever, and it was just a beautiful experience, a very enlightening experience. And it was there was one evening before the festival where there was a jam going on, and we're sitting there, we're playing, and I look around and I realized that there was a musician from every continent, and wherever country, and we were all playing together, and it was just it was a realization that that this is a language that goes beyond words, that we were all communicating and playing together and having this joyous, profound moment, and it was beautiful. So that was a very intimate and life-changing festival we played. And incidentally, the man Randy Rain Roush, who was the person who initially organized it and ran it for years, lives in Vancouver, I believe, just a little north of Bellingham.
Oh,
so I'm going to message him, and maybe I can get him to come down to the festival and say hi. And he's a great guy. He has hundreds of. I mean, he's basically a folk music aficionado, and he's the knowledge he has of folk music in the U.S. as well as around the world, and his instrument collection is pretty cool. It's always fun to hang out with him.
Awesome. What about Costa Rica?
Yeah. Oh, and then so we played one of our banjo players. We were trying to do some stuff, and he's like, we had to cancel practice, and we're like, oh, this okay, canceling practice. And he's like, we have a bigger issue. He's like, I'm moving to Costa Rica in a month. And this was, 4 or 5 or 6 years ago. And we're like, oh, well, this creates a challenge. And so he moved there, and it was fine. It was all amicable. He moved there to take care of a restaurant. But after about a year of him living there, he had become friends with some guys who were starting a country music festival. And so we were invited to come perform at it. And what we were told was that we were the first bluegrass band ever to play in Costa Rica. I'm not sure if I believe that, but that's what we were told. So it sounds good.
So this next question I have for you is, I don't think I've ever asked this question in my whole life. And so I'm just going to say one word with a question mark. Scalped?
Yes. Yes, I have been scalped in a broad sense of the term. I have a scar from my line up here all the way down to my eye. I was on New Year's Eve '97. I had a Volkswagen van, and I was going to go to the bank to withdraw some money so I could. And we were going to have I had a jam band at the time. We were going to have a big New Year's Eve party, and I got hit head on by a freight truck. He was pulling in to go into a gas station, and he just pulled right out in front of me, and I swerved, but nothing I could do. And when it happened, and the first thing I saw was my windshield flying through the air, and then I grabbed my head because I had hit my head on, I believe, the bar between the windshield and the door, and I went like that, and I went, "Oh my God!" And I looked down, it was bloody, and I went, "Oh my God, that's my skull." And so I had a hole about that big around of just all the skin, all the muscle. It was this skull exposed, and so I was like, I'm keeping my hand covering that up, and I just stayed like that until they eventually, I got out of the van and they strapped me to a board and took me to the hospital, and they were able to sew it together without using a skin graft, but I couldn't wrinkle my brow for 6 or 8 months. I had just the constant surprised look on my forehead.
Yeah, that's kind of like the fireman that had the Cocker Spaniel's hair grafted because he had a bad burn on his eyebrows, and they grafted it from his right hind leg, and every time he passed a fire hydrant, he looked surprised. Same kind of thing. It's a dad joke. So if you had a choice of collaborating with another band, who would it be? If you can think of a band, how about a couple of musicians? If you can't think of a band,
that's a tricky question because, I have some friends that I would love to do some stuff with, but like in the broader picture, like if you're doing like big dreams, like somebody like Jason Isbell or John Moreland or something like that, I'm really into their style of songwriting, and I think that would be really fun. As a band, like maybe like having a cool, like I don't have anybody specifically in mind, but just having just one of those hardcore honky tonk bands, that has a super tight rhythm section, like something like that to do my country songs with. There was a band in Colorado that's no longer together called Halden Wolford and the High Beams, and the High Beams they were a tight honky tonk band, like something like that's super fun, or maybe Ween would be totally a blast to do something with.
Yeah. So I'm going to move into my Dirty Dozen rapid fire segment. You don't know what questions are coming here. So it's usually, try to make it around 5 seconds. You can go a little longer if you like, because you're my last interview of the night. So we got a little more time.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. So the first question is, what are your favorite hot and cold drinks?
Hot and cold drinks. Cold drink, Dr. Pepper. Hot drink, probably some tea. Chai. That would be it.
Chai tea. Okay. So do you cook? And if so, what's your favorite thing to cook?
I have to cook. I'm okay at it. My favorite thing to cook, I like making chili, or I have a red lentil soup that I make, which is my mother-in-law's recipe, and I do pretty good at that. Those are good.
So if you ever want to trade recipes, I have a cheese dip I worked on for 8 years. It's called Starman's Cheese Dip. Okay. And if you want to send me your lentil, I'll send you the Starman. It's it's a great party crock pot dip for chips and stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Crock pot's great.
Yeah. So do you sell records as in actual vinyl?
We do not.
You ever wanted to?
We would, yes. But the way we sell our merch makes it cost prohibitive.
Okay.
It would be a loss for us. So,
okay. So who's the most famous person you have ever met?
I've met Jason Isbell on the streets before and post gigs a few times. Him, and it's funny, I've been in a hot tub with a Super Bowl champion and been on a plane with a Stanley Cup champion, and I had no idea who they were. And the same with J-Lo. I was walking in Telluride, and I was like, why is this big guy following this kind of small woman around? And I found out the next day that it was Jennifer Lopez, I believe. I was like, oh, I had no idea. I was walking behind her the whole time.
Wow. That's pretty good. So if cost was not an issue, Jason, and you could buy any guitar, what would it be?
I would probably go for a pre-war Martin shaded top D18, something that's been kind of rung through the ringer, drugged through a horse pasture. That's something that was super beat up and well played, but stable. Those are the kind of guitars that I like.
Cool. What's your favorite food?
Thai curry.
Thai curry. Have you ever been struck by lightning?
Yeah. Twice.
Twice. Tell us about that real quick. I'm curious.
The first time was and the aforementioned 78 Dodge pickup. It was the day before school was going to start. I think I was going into 5th grade, and my dad was going to take my sister and I fishing. And it was pouring down rain, and I don't know why he agreed to take us fishing, because it was a storm. And we're in the truck, and lightning struck the truck. And my mom was on the porch, and she flipped out. She was screaming at us not to get out. The wiper blades were just going super fast, and the lights were flashing on and off, and the entire cab filled with that electric blue light. And it just boom. And then it was like all this light and everything going on. And then the truck died, and my mom was just screaming at us, "Don't get out." And so that was the first time that I got struck by lightning. So didn't feel anything, but it was definitely a memorable experience.
Yeah.
The second time, I was working at a nature reserve in Missouri, and I did a lot of lawn mowing in the afternoons. And so there was a storm coming in. I had finished mowing, and I went to the visitor center to grab a drink. And then it was the end of the day. I was like, and I remember saying, "Okay, storm's coming. I'm gonna get the mower back over to the shop before the rain gets here." And so I'm walking out, and as I reach for the lawnmower, lightning strikes, and it came up through the lawnmower and into my hand and up my arm. And I remember seeing the bolt come out of the lawnmower, like it was like, inch and a half long, and it went up my arm, and my arm went all tingly. And I went back into the visitor center, and I said to Helen, the receptionist, I was like, "I think I just got struck by lightning." And she's like, "What?" I said, "Yeah." And what she said next was, "Oh, wow. Do we need to fill out an incident report?" And I looked at her, and I said, "No, my arm feels weird, but I'm going to get the mower back over to the shop now." And so I went back and drove to the shop. So,
Jason, Jason, what's your favorite key to sing in?
E. E is my favorite key.
E. Do you dream? And if so, do any of your dreams come true?
Yes. And I've actually had multiple dreams come true. And it's sort of a deja vu sort of thing, but I've known they're dreams because a lot of them I will have spoken to somebody about the dream after I've had it, where it didn't make sense. And then years later, that it's always a snapshot of a scene, but within that snapshot of the scene is all the details that's going on, like pre and post and around with everything. And so I remember those things, and it's always triggered by that one scene that'll happen. It happened like after we had the flood in Lions, and it happened with various friends and all sorts of things, but it's happened fairly regularly in my life.
Wow, that must be kind of fascinating as you see those things coming true.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And the first few times you're like, "Wait a minute, that's not real." And then as it happens, you're just like, "Oh yeah, I don't take it. I trust it. Oh yes, I remember this dream, and I remember telling so and so that I had this dream, and I remember because I remember one specifically where I told my wife, I was like, "I had this weird dream," and she's like, "Well, that couldn't happen here." And I was like, "Well, actually, that could happen here." I remember describing, what was going on around the dream, and then when that dream came true, I remember the conversation, and I remember the details that went around it, and yeah, very interesting.
Yeah. So, who's your favorite actor?
My favorite actor. That's I don't tend to watch a lot of movies and stuff, but I thought this one would be coming, so I put a little thought into it. But it's probably John Goodman.
Okay.
I love he was from when I was a kid in Roseanne, and then all the Coen brother movies. I love him, and I love when him and John Turturro are doing movies together. I love the combination of what they do, and yeah, but probably John.
Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou? He was pretty rough guy there. So what's your favorite movie? Even though you don't watch very many.
Yeah, The Big Lebowski would be it.
Big Lebowski. If you're not based out of your current location, and there's where would there be a secondary place that you might like to live?
I could very easily live back where I grew up in Missouri. I love the area. I love all my family and friends there, and it's definitely a home. I also fell in love with Costa Rica when I was there. So that could be a long-term vacation spot.
Yeah. So last question, I think we kind of blew the rapid fire part, but because it's so fascinating. What's your favorite venue to play and why?
Oh wow. That's a hard one. One that comes to mind is the Sheldon Concert Hall in St. Louis. It's the acoustics in there are just wonderful. But I will also say like the Rocky Grass stage here in Lyons, and then like the Telluride Bluegrass Festival. I mean that just looking out off of that stage and that the mountains across the valley, and I mean those are, I feel sort of fortunate that we have 3 or 4 different venues in Colorado that offer just breathtaking views for gigs. And so whenever you're at one of those, it's just, you're like, it doesn't get any better.
Yeah. By chance, have you ever played Darrington?
I have not. And I heard that one is just absolutely gorgeous as well. So I'm looking forward to doing that at some point.
You'll like it. Yeah. If nothing else, for the view.
Yeah.
So before we close,
yes,
you had only one message to provide to your fan base and those listening today. What would it be?
Oh, one message. That anytime we get the opportunity to go out and perform for our fans, and new or old, we don't take that lightly. It is a blessing to be able to do that, and we love getting out and playing for people, and telling stories and singing songs and doing our best and being as authentic as we can. And we love meeting everybody. It's a blessing and it's an honor to be able to do it. And we without our fans, and not just our fans and friends and fan base, but like the greater bluegrass community and then music community as a whole that's supporting maybe the lesser known idioms of music. Without them, I mean, this stuff wouldn't go on, and we understand that and we appreciate that very heartfeltly. That and anytime we get to go do it, it's a blessing.
Great. Well, Jason, I just want to give you my sincere thanks and appreciation for you taking the time to have this little interview with us, and we're looking forward to Blue Canyon Boys coming out and playing next week, and I will see you soon.
Yes, looking forward to it.
Yeah. Say a few words about the festival and the interviews. We have some interviews coming up this week. We're going to be interviewing Greg Linder with Runaway Train. We're going to be interviewing the Cody Norris folks, and we're going to be interviewing Greg Cahill and Greg Blake with Special Consensus. So stay tuned. If you're looking at this on YouTube, just hit subscribe and hit the notification bell, and you'll get notified for when those interviews are coming up, or go to our Facebook page and they're all there as well. So thank you, everybody. Hope to see you at the festival, and bluegrass on, as they say. Take care, everybody. Goodbye. Thanks,
Bye.
Jason.
Thank you, David.